I'm Robert Firpo-Cappiello, Editor-in-Chief at Hospitality Technology. My guest is James King, CEO of Titan Hospitality. James, welcome to MURTEC.
Thanks for having me.
Now, this section of MURTEC is devoted to what's next, and augmented reality is on our list and the list of a lot of restaurant operators of technologies that can deliver enhanced revenue. And I'm interested to talk to you about that. Now, Titan Hospitality, for those MURTEC attendees who aren't familiar with your brand, can you describe your restaurant properties to us?
Sure. We are located in the Annapolis, Maryland area, and we have several concepts. The Blackwall Hitch, which is located in Old Town Alexandria, Virginia, in downtown Annapolis. The Blackwall Barn and Lodge, located in Gambrills, Maryland. And we have two Smashing Grapes kitchen and wine bars, one in Annapolis, Maryland, and one in Gambrills, Maryland. And finally, we have a Roy Rogers franchise.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's a nice variety of restaurant locations.
Somewhat diversified, yeah.
Types, yeah. I love it. Now, we all know what the challenges restaurants have faced in the past 12 months, along with the rest of the country and the world. Restaurants have faced some specific challenges in dining room closures and obviously loss of revenue, loss of jobs. I'm interested to hear specifically what some of your challenges have been, and then we're going to pivot to discussing how augmented reality has a little bit surprisingly presented an opportunity to retrieve revenue.
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously the last 12 months have been probably the most difficult in our industry in decades, if not ever. As we navigated through, I think the biggest challenge was creating a new business model every couple of months, going from 50% capacity or 25% capacity or carry out only. And I think you constantly had to look at your business model and make adjustments to what the government regulations were at the time. How do you maximize revenues? How do you minimize expenses? And how do you do so in a way that continue to kind of bring the consumer in and feel like they're not just picking up a bag of food or rushing through a meal? You still needed to provide them with a reason to choose you over all the competition. And so, aside from losing staff and hiring staff and kind of going back with the pendulum back and forth there, I think what we did is try to roll our sleeves up and really look at our operations from front to back. How are they working? How could we make them more efficient? How can we make it more efficient, not only for our employees, but for the user? So kind of both sides of it. Anytime we contemplate new technology or any policy change, we ask ourselves two questions. How does this make it a better experience for the consumer? And how does it make it better on our employees? Because I think if you don't have both, often you may be thinking that you're doing something to make life a little easier on the consumer, but you're making it twice as hard on your staff. Or vice versa. You're trying to streamline the process for your staff, but you're diminishing the experience for the consumer. And so, we really tried to be thoughtful before we just jumped into stuff and really tried to think it all the way through from the user standpoint back to, the manager, the person ringing something up, the cook cooking the food, the person bagging it or taking it to a table. And so it was challenging. And I think a lot of new technologies have emerged. I think more are continuing to be developed, and we'll see them come out in the next couple of months. I think we all think that while we'll get back to some kind of normalcy, it'll be the new normal. And some of the things are here to stay and probably going to continue to grow as people's habits have changed and expectations have changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, restaurants lost a significant amount of revenue. The American Restaurant Association estimates, more than $200 billion lost in 2020. Now, you've put in place a program using augmented reality, bring your own menu. That the phrase we sometimes hear is revenue retrieval, and I'd like to hear about that.
Sure. So one of the first things we did was we realized, when we were in the early phases of the pandemic, looking at safety and sanitation, but also looking at kind of consumer confidence and what individuals were comfortable with when going to a restaurant. A lot of polls in our region showed that only about 48% of residents in our state were comfortable dining out. And out of those 48%, about half preferred to be outdoors. So we're dealing with a limited segment of society, and we're dealing with people who were willing to kind of venture out, but also wanted to go to places where they felt it was safe, secure, and sanitized. And part of that was giving people as much touchless technology as we could. And so we use a company called Uptown Network, which we have built a great partnership with over the last year. And then one of the first things we did was to create QR codes that we put on coasters. And every table would get a coaster. And on one side, it talked about the things that we had done to that table prior to them sitting down, so the sanitation part. And on the other side was the QR code that gave a full menu. So a consumer could use their own personal device, zap on the QR code, and up popped our menu. And then not only was it our food and beverage and wine list, but it also gave us an opportunity then to market and advertise other things. So we would put a live music calendar up there. We would put upcoming holiday events, pick up your Thanksgiving meal to go type of things. So we tried to use it as touchless technology for people to order from the table and look at our menus, but also if people are going to take the time to go there, we have a captive audience. Let's also promote the business and take up an opportunity to make it an advertising expense as well. And so that was the first step we did. We realized quickly that I would say 85% of our consumers took advantage of that. They felt comfortable with it. They didn't have to touch anything else. It was all through their own personal device. And so that was a game changer for us. It also, in a lot of ways, streamlined operations for our hostess stand. We're not lugging menus back and forth to the table, heavy wine lists, things like that. Generationally, there were some challenges. Some of the older generations, had difficulty navigating through some of that. So we were kind of training our employees to not only explain how to get on there, but then also kind of be that assistant if they needed help navigating through that stuff. And then we also went to the pay at the table. And so we never had to take someone's credit card out of their possession. No one else had to touch it. So the tablet would come to the table. They insert their credit card. They can split a check if they'd like. If there's two guests and they want to split that check, the server doesn't have to do that. They can literally click and drag the items onto two separate checks. They can put two forms of payment in. And so we found that the consumer kind of really preferred that. I think from a security standpoint, the credit card never leaves their physical being, but also no one's touching it except them. So it's going from their wallet into the machine and back into their wallet. So those were two kind of game changers that we did. We received tremendous positive feedback. And I think those are technologies that are going to stay. I think we'll see people wanting to be able to do that from their own personal device.
Mm-hmm. Now, around holiday time, I remember there was an announcement that Titan Hospitality was rolling out virtual gifting, and I believe it was using some of this same technology. Can you describe that a bit? Because that sounds very, very appealing. The idea of being able to share, a restaurant experience with people without having to touch anything, mail anything.
Very cool technology, and I think that's something that's absolutely here to stay as well. Where a consumer can buy a gift for somebody they know, hey, this individual loves going to Smash and Grapes Kitchen and Wine Bar. They're there once a week. What do we get this person for Christmas or for the holidays? Hey, let's get them a gift card or let's get them a dinner. And so through their app, you can literally go on, you can buy an experience for them. It gets emailed right to them, nothing to print out, nothing to mail, nothing to touch. The consumer then brings their phone or mobile device in, pops it up at the restaurant. Now we have that information. It's got a number, we plug it in, and that person has basically, whether it's $100 meal, dinner for two with a bottle of wine. The options are endless. You can do Sunday brunches. You can do all kinds of cool and unique packages for people. And it was kind of a game changer as opposed to the traditional having to drive to a location, purchase a gift card, put it in an envelope, mail it off. This was kind of a completely new way to gift a restaurant experience to people. And I think it not only helped restaurant revenues at a time we desperately needed it, it also made it very convenient for the consumer.
Mm-hmm. And as I understand it, Uptown Network's technology allowed for some sort of augmented reality 3D experience. When you open the gift card, can you describe what that experience looked like? Like if somebody opens the gift card on their phone, what did they see?
Yeah, so I mean, I think and I think they're still kind of creating new and creative concepts as they do that with different possibilities. But for example, if you bought somebody a dinner for two, that individual first we get an email that said, "Hey, so and so sent you a gift. John Smith sent you a gift," and you would go ahead and you would open that, and when you click the link, you'd see the confetti or balloons or happy birthday. And then it would come up as to what that gift was. And also then pretty detailed instructions on how to claim that and how to use it. I think for a lot of people, this was new and they said, well, this is cool, but what is it and how do I redeem this? So some pretty cool instructions. And I think it really started catching on. What we were seeing was the individuals that were receiving these were telling us, once I got it, I then sent it to 3 or 4 friends. It was such a great idea that I now use that to purchase gifts for my friends. And so it's one of those things that as people start to experience it, they realize this is a really cool, unique idea that I can also use in my arsenal of things to do.
Yeah, I'd like that. And you know what it's reminding me? You mentioned earlier the generational differences with technology, because some of the things you're describing here with these gift cards, the virtual gifting, it reminds me a little bit of what my kids are doing on, say, TikTok or Snapchat with the filters, creating like a party atmosphere. And I think I love that you're keeping the guest in mind at all times. We talk sometimes about experiential dining versus transactional dining, and when you're ordering from home or just picking up, it can become very transactional. Nothing wrong with that. You know what you expect. You know what you're paying for, but people miss the experiential. And so this getting that email with having it really feel like an event. And as you mentioned, that you're already integrating the guest into the restaurant experience from their device. That feels like a really powerful message.
It's powerful. And I think it also is a really great way to expose new clientele to you, giving that to people that may have not experienced your restaurant before. And to your point, with the transactional dining, everyone can get a meal anywhere these days, right? There's a lot of competition. There's delivery, there's takeout, there's restaurants, there's food trucks. If you're trying to get that kind of experience dining and you want people to come through your doors and see your decor and your lighting and whatever else you've done to create a great dining environment, this is a great way to get people to come out and see it. And once they see it, obviously they're hooked and they want to pass it on to others. So moving into this next phase of what the new normal may look like, I think all of us in this industry are really trying to figure out, what does the marketing piece look like? Obviously there's traditional print ad and television and radio. And then that kind of moved into social media ads and Facebook ads and things like that. And now we're kind of looking at, well, what does that next phase look like to draw the consumer in? And with technology, it's changing all over again. And you've got to kind of stay up with what is the new quickest ways, whether that's creating an app for your restaurant. And you've got an app now where someone can make a reservation, they can order food to go, they can have delivery come straight to you. These are the types of things that I think that we're evolving into, and the restaurants that can stay cutting edge with the technology, I think, have a step up on those that are kind of lagging behind in those marketing and advertising efforts. And we're all fighting for the same pool of people. There's fierce competition out there, and you've got to think and be creative on how you target and market a consumer now, whether it's the geo targeting that's kind of the newest wave. But I think gone are the days of people picking up the newspaper and seeing an ad for your Sunday brunch, or, driving down the car and listening to a radio station. Most people now are on XM or things like that, that it's getting more and more difficult, and you've got to be more and more creative and use technology that's available to you to get to the consumer. And I think that's the next challenge for the restaurants.
I think you're right. Restaurants are learning to think like retailers and e-commerce. You're in the business of e-commerce, whether you would want to admit it or not. So you might as well embrace it, because there are so many opportunities to meet the customer directly where they are and where they want to be moved. Yeah.
And I think that's true also to staffing, right? To identify good quality staff. I think that's a challenge we're all having right now. You're going to have to use those same vehicles to get in the job market. You're not placing an ad in the help wanted ads anymore in the newspaper. It's how do you get that message out that you're hiring and you need talented people, and that technology is going to be a way to do that as well.
Yeah. Well, James King, CEO of Titan Hospitality, thank you so much for joining me and for and educating our MURTEC audience. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks for having me.